All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning. Happy Monday. It's Monday, August the 29th, 2020. It is not August the 29th. It is August the 19th, 2024. And hope you're having a beautiful morning. This morning we're going to be in the Psalms. We're going to be looking at Psalms 109, Psalm 49, Psalm 139, and Psalm 119. And the title of today's Daily Manna is Lord, I trust you to deal with the mess. And the mess that I'm talking about is the mess that's when we open up in these psalms, we're seeing the psalmist and David dealing with having to wrestle with the mess that's around him. And then in wrestling with what's going on, trying to make sense of, understand what's going on around him, what's happening to him. Well, then I say, Lord, I need you to deal with the mess that's going on inside of me as well. Because I'm trying to figure out how to process all of this, how to and to put this in your hands. And so you see in these Psalms, David wrestling with this tension, with this mess that's around, and then the effect that it has within, and having to learn how to hand that over to the Lord. Do want to remind everyone, if you haven't downloaded our app, please download our app. You can go to your app store and just look up Shalom AZ and download it. And then we want to thank you for your faithfulness in partnering with us and with our ministry. And you can bless us by make sure you hit like, hit and comment and subscribe and share and give. And you can, in the app, you can click giving and you can go right there, or go to shalomaz.com/give. But thank you for your faithfulness there. All right, we're going to open up with Psalm 109 this morning. And Psalm 109 it's a tough one. It's the prayer of the victim, and in it you see David wrestling with you have what we call these imprecatory prayers. It's like, Lord, and it's he's wanting the worst for his enemies. Charles Spurgeon, commenting on this psalm, he says, because he says, these are not the ravings of a vicious, revengeful spirit. David would not smite the man who sought his blood. He frequently forgave those who treated him shamefully. And therefore these words cannot be read in a bitter, revengeful sense, for that would be foreign to the character of the Son of David. The imprecatory sentences before us were penned by one who, with all his courage in battle, was a man of music and of tender heart, and they were meant to be addressed to God in the form of a psalm, and therefore they cannot possibly have been meant to be mere angry cursing. And what you see here is David ultimately saying, Lord, I'm giving all of this into your hands. The thing that and when we wrestle with, and what you see David wrestle with in Psalm 109 is in wanting God's justice to be accomplished. As we've been going through the book of Revelation, we actually see that there comes a day when his justice is fully accomplished. When those who have been intent on being destroyers and on rejecting the Lord and on hurting others, that having there have been opportunity after opportunity to repent, that there's ultimately a judgment. So let's look at this Psalm 109 as David opens up and says, O God of my praise, don't be silent. For the wicked and the deceitful have opened their mouth against me. They spoke to me, or they spoke of me with a lying tongue. With hateful words surrounded me and fought against me without cause. So the opening picture here is David being surrounded by lies, being surrounded by hateful words, being and by conflict that he didn't pursue. And so his prayer is, oh God, you are the one that I praise. I need you to speak up. Right? So David is not coming to his own defense here. Again, his whole thing, he's having a conversation with the Lord. He's talking to the Lord. And perhaps he's even saying, he'll come to the point where he's like, here's how I think you should deal with them. But ultimately, he entrusts it to the Lord. Speaking of his accusers in verse 4, he says, in return for my love, or instead of my love, in place of my love, they are my accusers. They accuse me. But I am praying. But as for me, he says, I'm praying. Right? I offered them love, and they accuse me. And the word for accusers, the root word is there is the word we use for the word Satan, Satan. Right? They are bringing accusation. So instead of my love, they're bringing accusation. But as for me, he says, and he says it with emphatically, va'ani, as for me, I am praying. They repay me evil instead of good for good, and hatred for my love. Set a wicked man over him. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is judged, let him be found guilty, and may his prayer be as a sin. Let his days be few. Let another take his position. So he wants those who have been his false accusers, who have come against them, to be found guilty. Right? There's a court setting that is placed here. And may his calling for judgment here, it says, may his prayer, it can say toward sin. Here it's interpreted as sin, but it's toward sin or for sin. Let his prayer be for sin. Let his days be few. Let another take his position. Here's where it gets a little dark. Verse 9, may his children be fatherless, and his wife a widow. Let his children wander and beg, and may they search in their ruins. Let a creditor seize all he has, and may strangers plunder his labor. Let no one show him mercy or take pity on his fatherless children. Let his posterity be cut off, and his name be blotted out in the next generation. May the guilt of his fathers be remembered before Adonai, the sin of his mother never blotted out. Let their sins be before Adonai continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. So David is angry, and these are words that are can only be understood as he is desiring the death of this one, and desiring for the impact to roll on to those who are connected with him. But again, this is something that he's dealing with the Lord. He's bringing it before the Lord. Here's why he is praying for these things. He says, because he never remembered to show mercy, but he persecuted a poor and a needy man. He persecuted one crushed in spirit to put him to death. So what he is praying for is a sense of equal justice. This idea that the one that pursued him when he was persecuted, when he was in need, there was no love, there was no mercy. Here I was despondent, crushed in spirit, is frightened in his heart, and he was seeking to put me to death, which means he wasn't concerned about any of my loved ones and so forth. So there's sort of an eye for an eye being expressed in David's prayer here. And so he says, how he loved cursing, may it fall on him. May the things that he so seemed to love doing, may he, if that's so great, if he loved doing it, if it's so good to give, let him receive that. He had no pleasure in blessing. May it be far from him. He didn't like to bless, so let that be his lot. He wore cursing like his robe, until it filled his belly like water and his bones like oil. May it be like a cloak wrapped around him, like a belt tied around him always. Let this be Adonai's reward to my accusers, to those who speak evil against me. Basically, may they get what they're putting out there, right? May it boomerang, may it reflect back. It says, but as for you, Adonai, my master, deal with me or do with me according to this, for the sake of your name. Because your loving kindness is good, deliver me. Right, so now I'm trusting you to rescue me, to snatch me out. The word for deliver me has to do with snatching me out of the situation because I am afflicted and needy. And my heart is pierced in my inner being, he says. My heart is wounded within me, but my heart is pierced in the innermost depths. I fade away like an evening shadow, shaken off like a locust. My knees totter from fasting, and my flesh is lean with no fat. And I become a taunt to them. When they see me, they wag their head. Verse 26 says, help me, Adonai, my God. Hosanna, Hoshiani, save me, rescue me through according to your loving kindness, according to your love. And let them know, he says, verse 27, it says, and let them understand that it's your hand, that you, Adonai, have done it. Right? I'm giving this to you, and Lord, I want them to know that this is from you, he says. They may curse, but you will bless. When they arise, they will be ashamed, but your servant will rejoice. My accusers will be clothed in disgrace and wrapped in shame as in a cloak. I will greatly thank Adonai with my mouth, and in the midst of a throng will I praise him. Because he stands at the right hand of the needy, of the one in need, to save him from those who condemn his soul. And so what you've got to understand in reading this is when you're talking about the prayer of one who is really being just horribly treated, horribly persecuted, and that he is saying, Lord, I need you to come to deal with this mess around me. And you can see he's really angry. I don't know that when we read these prayers, I don't believe that all these prayers are necessarily all a model of how we should pray. But I do think they do give us, when you look at the whole of them, they do give us permission to. All right. Sorry about that. We had an audio issue that we had to take care of. Okay. Can someone just give me a thumbs up or something in the chat? Let me know that everything's all good. So what I was saying was, in regard to Psalm 109, I do think that it's a picture of David being able to deal honestly with the Lord, but ultimately he's handing everything over to the Lord. He is dealing with this, and he's calling on the Lord to come to his defense. Right? That's where this closing verse 31, because where he's saying, I'm going to thank you, Lord. I'm going to praise you in the midst of the multitude. I'm going to praise you because you are the one who stands at the right hand of the needy. Right? That the one who is surrounded, the one who is small and beaten up. This is the thing that we do have to understand about the heart of God and the justice of God, is that he's not okay. He is not okay with the persecution of the little guy. That he comes to the aid of the needy. He comes to the aid of the afflicted. He comes to the aid of the one who is weak. And when he sees people overwhelmingly taking advantage of the weak, that brings about that is an injustice that so offends the heart of God. That is so in contradiction to the heart of God. And that's the thing that David's appealing to here, is to the wickedness of that. And so David is praying these prayers, but ultimately trusting the Lord to deal with this mess around him. So let's look at Psalm 49. Psalm 49 is a psalm of the sons of Korah. He says, it says this, "Hear this, Shema, all you peoples. Give ear, all you inhabitants of the world. Right? It says all the inhabitants of life is really what it says. If you're living, pay attention. Both high and low, rich and poor. Right? So the children of humanity, everyone, including the most important, the least, those who feel the smallest, everyone needs to listen. My mouth speaks wisdom, verse 4. My heart's meditation is understanding. I'm going to turn my ear to a proverb. And so this word here for proverb, mashal, is like a parable. It's like to be like something. So this is the idea of a parable. He says, I will utter my riddle on the harp. So he wants us to, everyone listen. And now this is wisdom that we need to grasp. He says, why should I fear in evil days when the iniquity of my deceivers surrounds me? Right? So in the same way that we saw in Psalm 109, where the lies surrounded David at the beginning, well, here it says the twistings, the perversions of those grabbing at me. Deceivers here is the same word as for Yaakov, for Jacob, of the heel grabbers. And so the iniquity of those grabbing at me, it surrounds me. He goes, so why should I fear when this is happening, though? Or those trusting in their wealth, why should I fear when the wicked are the iniquity of my deceivers surrounds me? Or those trusting in their wealth and their strength or their power, boasting about their great riches, right? The ones putting confidence in their wealth, in the greatness of their strength, in the greatness of their riches. Here's the deal. He says, why should I fear? Because no matter how great they are, no matter how much their deception is surrounding and grabbing at me, no matter what, here's the deal. Verse 8, no man can redeem his brother or give to God a ransom for him. And that word for where it says ransom is the word kippur, an atonement, a covering for him. No man can redeem his brother. He cannot give to God an atonement for him. Because the redemption, verse 9, for the redemption of a soul is costly, is precious. It's using the word precious as in precious gems. So one should stop trying forever. It says in it literally, and it ceases forever. The redemption of a soul is precious, is hard to come by, and it ceases forever. Verse 10, will he live forever and never see the pit? Surely he must see. Even wise men die. The fool and the brutish alike will perish, leaving their wealth to others, right? He sees that the wise die together with the fools. They both die. And like animals, just like animals, they're destroyed. They abandon their wealth and their power to the future. Verse 12, their inward thought is this. They think their houses are eternal, their dwellings for generation after generation. They think they name their lands after themselves. Verse 13, but the pompous man, this is the man who thinks he's valuable, that he's worth a lot, is the language there. The man of great value, the man of great wealth or great cost, will not endure. It won't last the night, it says. He is like, and this is where the word mishal is used again, like it's a parable. He is like the beasts that perish or that come to an end. Right? So it would seem that this verse 13 would bring a conclusion, right, to this unit, kind of this section, both the wealthy and the wise are fools because they misconceive the world. They misconstrue how it is ordered by God. And they're engaged in an illusion that somehow everything just passes on, that their name endures. And they've missed the reality that you can't take it with you. Verse 14 says, such is the path or the way of the self-confident and their followers who approve their sayings. The self-confident is is also connected to the word for fool. The one who is confident in himself and he's foolish is the idea. This is the way of them and of those who are repeating after them, who are approving their sayings. They are, verse 15, that like sheep they are destined for Sheol. Death will be their shepherd, and the upright will rule over them in the morning. Will rule over them in the morning. Their image will decay in Sheol, far from its lofty place. Verse 16, surely God redeems my soul from the power of Sheol, from the power of the grave. For he receives me, or he will carry me away. He will grasp me is the idea. Right. So this verse 16 it does give us this imagery of the Lord taking us ransoming us from the place of death. Right. Earlier, here it says he receives me. Earlier it said, look, no one can take you from Sheol or ransom your soul. But here we get an idea that the Lord himself redeems my soul. No man can, but God redeems my soul from the power, from the hand of Sheol, because he grasps me. He takes me away. Right. So this verse offers hope in the face of death. And it points to the resurrection. Verse 17, don't fear or be afraid when a man gets rich, when his house's splendor increases. For when he dies, he takes nothing away. His splendor, his glory will not follow him down. Though during his life he congratulates himself, and men praise you when you do well for yourself, he will still join his father's company who will never see the light. Verse 21, a pompous man without understanding is like the beasts that perish. So this is the parable, right? When he says, open your ears, high and low, great and small. I'm going to give you a parable. The parable is this, is that the humanity in his impressiveness, in the man of a pompous man, or the man of great, thinking he's of great value, doesn't grasp it. He's without understanding. He's without discernment. He doesn't get it. And that one is like the beasts that perish, right? Doesn't take anything with him. Like so again, this is within, so this is not David here. The psalmist is dealing with the mess around him. But then we come to Psalm 139, and we come to David, this famous psalm. Adonai, you searched me and you know me. You've examined me and you perceive me. You know me. When I sit down, whenever I sit down or stand up, you know it. And the opening word of that verse is actually you. You know my sitting and my standing. Like that's the emphasis in this is that you see, you understand, you know. You discern, you understand my thinking from a long way off. Verse 3, you observe my journeying and my resting, and you are familiar with all my ways. You're accustomed with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, Adonai, you know all about it. You hemmed me in behind and before, and you laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your ruach, from your spirit? And where can I flee from your face, from your presence? If I go up to heaven, Atah, Sham Atah, you are there. And if I make my bed in Sheol, he says, look, you are there too. Literally, it actually says, in laying down in Sheol, it says, you behold, you see. That where it translates it as look there is more of the idea of, if I'm laying down in the grave, you behold it, you see it. Like, I've not escaped your sight. Verse 9, if I take the wings of the dawn and settle on the other side of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. If I say, surely darkness covers me, night keeps light at a distance from me, even darkness is not dark for you, and night is as bright as day. Darkness and light are alike. Right? It's you're not your vision is not limited by my circumstances, because you have created my conscience, my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am awesomely, wonderfully made. He says, I acknowledge you. I give you thanks because I am a miracle, he says, because I am made in fear and I am created in awe. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows that very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw me when I was unformed, and in your book were written the days that were formed, when not one of them had come to be. How precious, how valuable are your thoughts, O God. How great is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Verse 19, if only you would slay the wicked, O God. Deal with wickedness around me. Away from me, you bloody men. You men of blood, or you men of murder. Right? Get away, turn aside. For they speak about you with wicked intent. Your enemies reproach you in vain. He says, do I not hate those who hate you, Adonai? Do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with total hatred. I consider them my enemies. Right? So here again, he's like, now, and you have this beautiful psalm, right? And then he gets to this place, and he's like, the wickedness around me, and so he expresses this. I hate them. I see them as an enemy. Those who are an enemy to you. I'm disgusted by those who are rising up against you. With totality, he says. But he lays his heart back before the Lord in verse 23 and says, search me, O God, and know my heart. He says, so to search me is to explore, kind of spy out. And then he says, examine me, which is to test, like someone who's a metal tester is to look closely, to inspect. He says, and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way within me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Search me, O God, know my heart. Inspect me, know my anxious thoughts. See if there's a way, a path of offense or grief in me. Recognize it and lead me in the eternal way. And so then we come to Psalm 19. As David looks, he says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies show his handiwork. Day to day they speak. Night to night they reveal, they make known. There is no speech, no words where their voice goes unheard, right? So these first verses here, first 4 verses, start with a focus on creation, right? But the focus isn't on creation itself, it's on what creation is saying. So the heavens, the dome of the sky is measuring, it's counting, it's declaring the glory of God, right? It's declaring the work of his hands. And every day they gush forth the promises of God, right? The dependability of the rising sun every day, the faithfulness of God day after day. They reveal knowledge. And so God's creation resounds with a speech that we can't hear, but they don't speak in a way that we can hear. They speak beyond words, right? There's no place where words are spoken that we don't see the glory of God, right? It says there is no speech or words where their voice goes unheard. Everywhere where there are people talking, the voice of creation cries out about who God is. Verse 5, their voice goes out to all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In the heavens, he pitched a tent for the sun. It's like a bridegroom coming out of his bridal chamber. It's like a strong man rejoicing to run his course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other end. Nothing is hidden from its heat, or nothing is hidden from its glow. right? So that everything is declaring and revealing God everywhere where people are, and his faithfulness is revealed. But we can't discern it. So in his kindness, in his graciousness, the Lord gave us instructions that we can discern. So verse 8 says the instructions, the Torah of Adonai is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of Adonai is trustworthy, making the simple wise, making the naive or the inexperienced, giving wisdom to them, right? The testimony speaks to the warnings of the Lord when he puts up his warning signs. The precepts of Adonai are right or straight, they're level, giving joy to the heart. The commands, the mitzvot of Adonai are pure, giving light to the eyes. The fear of Adonai, the awe of Adonai is clean or purifying, is cleansing, standing to the end, enduring forever. The justice or the judgments, the governance, the decisions of God of Adonai are true, and they are altogether righteous. They are true and right in unity, right? He's faithful and true. His justice is faithful and true. They are more desirable than gold. Yes, more than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey in the drippings of the comb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. Who can discern, who can grasp his errors, his wanderings? So here's this prayer that is a prayer of our hearts. Who can understand when I go to the left or the right? Because nature declares the glory of God, but it doesn't give me the clarity of understanding how do I walk, how do I live. And so then the Lord has come with clarity, with instructions. And so who can discern his errors, or who can grasp this? He says, Lord, cleanse me of hidden faults. Deal with the mess in me. Cleanse me from secret sins, concealed sins. Also keep your servant from willful sins. So for the stuff I don't understand, the stuff that's done in error, Lord, cleanse me of that. And for the things that are done in rebellion, Lord, keep me from that. Help prevent me from that. May they not have dominion over me. If I can avoid the hidden sins, and if I can avoid the overt rebellious sins, well, then I will be blameless, he says, free from great transgression. And so then he comes to this place to where our sins originate, where they start. They start in the place in our heart, in our thoughts, and they overflow from our lives and in our hands and our lives, and so in our mouths. So he says, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, before your face. He says, be pleasing, be acceptable, be favorable in your presence. Adonai, my rock or my strength and my redeemer. Right? Lord, I need you. So I lay all this out before you, but Lord, search me, know me. Right? See if there's any offensive way within me, and lead me in the way everlasting. May the words of my mouth, may the thoughts of meditations of my heart be pleasing. I want to be pleasing to you. So I trust all of this mess. I trust it to you. I want to look and see it from your perspective, but I give it to you. And I want to live my life in obedience to you, walking in your ways. Right? And so when we come to these, we understand that David is praying in these prayers, and he's in his humanity, and we can learn how we're able to be honest with God and deal with these things before God. But we also understand that Yeshua came to us and made, with perfect clarity, showed us the heart of God. When you see me, you've seen the Father. And so when we see what Yeshua tells us, he says, I'm telling you, if you want to be like your Father in heaven, right? In Luke chapter 6, he says, pray for those who persecute you. Bless those who curse you, right? Because that's what the Father is like. Love your enemies. And so when we have the choice, okay, where do I model my life after? What I can see is the wrestling in the human heart in David. But I also know that what I'm called to do, where I'm called to walk, is when God reveals himself with the utmost clarity in Messiah Yeshua. That shows me, his way shows me the way in which I'm to walk, right? How would Yeshua pray? How does Yeshua deal in this with those who spit in his face, with those who were wrong to him, those who crucified him, right? He loved us. He loved us to the point of laying his own life down. And that's what we're called to do. And so all through this, we say, Lord, I'm trusting you to deal with the mess around me, Lord, and I need you to deal with the mess in me and make me more like you. Amen? All right. Well, sorry about the technical difficulties in the middle of today's Daily Manna. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.